Good. I'm now live. Welcome to the Car Crash Productions Instagram account, Instagram Live for Virtual Fringe. So I just want to remind you in the beginning, and I'm asked to remind you what this Virtual Fringe is about. Thank you for everyone who's joining at the moment. Since the world is in a place where it is at the moment, the company just wanted to raise awareness for theatre and awareness for the fact that Edinburgh Fringe did not happen. And therefore we are raising also funds for the company through this Virtual Fringe platform. And I'm asked to come and share you a workshop. And I just want to say that this is something that I would call probably workshop style session, or lecture is a bit more academic than what I mean with this. But my background is in acting, and I'm currently studying in MFA directing at East 15 Acting School. And I wanted to have a session with you, everyone who is at the moment sharing this time with me, to practice and spice up the ways we analyze and go through a text. I'd say both as an actor and as a director, since I'm focusing on both of those in my own practice. And a little bit about myself. I'm not sure if I introduced myself, so I'm Ronja. I'm born and raised in Finland, and I did my BA in performing arts, and I also have a qualification to teach, and that's sort of one thing that I really want to focus in the future, and that's why I also appreciate the fact that I'm going to be leading this workshop with you, because it's a weird platform. You are not here with me in this room, but you are all there waving to me, and I just wish you enjoy. If you feel like you have some things that are weird or you don't get them, just come and pop a question in the question box here in the live, and I'll try and answer if it's something that is sort of important at this very moment when we are going through a few practices and exercises. If it's something that can be saved for the later, I'm looking forward to have a Q&A with Alex later on in the session. To start with, I am quite inspired by the idea that a moving actor is a thinking actor, and I'm trying to marry Stanislavskian acting theory into a bit more physical theatre actor identity, but I want to just emphasize the fact that physical actor does not mean physical theatre actor, and we cannot, every one of us, be trained by Jacques Lecoq, but we can all get our bodies moving. So that's sort of one thing that inspired me in this planning of this workshop or workshop style session. One thing I want to start with is to warm up our bodies. I might be, standing up, sitting back down, but since I don't see any one of you how you're dealing with this workshop, feel free to sit down, jump, whatever, or take the exercises I'm gonna do as they are convenient for you. I mean, if you're in an office, on a chair, sitting on a chair, probably do not jump, but take it as you find it interesting. But just so that we can warm up our brain, we need to warm up our body, and the other way around. So try starting with warming up your wrists and fingers. One thing I appreciate in theatre is ensemble-based work. and I love warming up in a group. So we're gonna have one exercise a bit later. You can reverse your circles a bit later with just crazy lot of energy, and I wish you all can enjoy that. And everything I'm doing today is better in group. So feel free to steal everything I'm doing in here and just use it. If you're having a little stiff moment in the rehearsal space, or you need just energy, or you need to get into the group with the group, just feel free to take my exercises. If you are standing right now, what I'm not doing, feel free to move your toes around, your ankles around, your knees around, hips around. You can even do the coffee grinder, which I like to call it coffee grinder. So you're just moving from your hips and you are moving your whole body. This is as if you would be swinging the massive hula hoop around your body. And since I think a physical actor, not a physical theatre actor, but a physical actor, the identity starts from being relaxed in the body. We need to get our minds off from the thinking mind. We have, everyone in this 21st century society has a bit of a tendency to think before we speak, which is naturally quite a good thing. But for an actor for an impulsive actor, an actor who wants to just let it be free, sometimes it's hard to just take the brain out from your mind, your head, and just put it aside and let your body be free. So one thing I came up with, this is much nicer if you do this in a circle, if you have a lot of actors in the same group, for example, but you can have this sort of exercise of free association, I would call it. And the basic idea is that you throw in a word inspired by the word that the other actor said to you, and you are not allowed to give it more than half a second, 1 second time. So if a person would say a dog, I would probably say a cat. But you can have a try. It feels so weird. You're not here with me sharing this moment. But I would give it a go. Say plant, tree beard, Lord of the Rings, Jesus, Mother Earth, Lord Poseidon, water, sea creatures, and so on and so on. And it's great if you can associate with a group of 20 people, and it's just going around in circle. And one thing is that if you add on any kind of physical movement, so in this case I made it quite simple, so I was just rolling my wrists since I'm sitting here. But one thing that is absolutely brilliant is if you have a ball. I don't own a ball, but if you have a ball and you throw it around in the circle, or if you have assigned pattern with the ball in the circle, and you need to keep this association, free association message going on in the ring. This kind of exercise is quite natural for me to start waking up the brain, but in a way that is not strictly married to very intelligent thinking. Alex says that she loves using ball in ensemble warm-ups, which is just a great thing. People have this tendency to think that the ball is for kids, but ball is a massively great thing for any adult in any group. So go and buy a ball. It's a few pounds from any shop, and you can just have a go with the ball. That would be one way to start exercising. I'd say waking up the mind, waking up the body, but in a way that the two of those don't have to stick together, and it's a good platform for us to jump into marrying the two of those together, which is the core of my workshop session today. But let's move on to another exercise I really love to do. This is great for kids, specifically for kids. I'm sorry about the creaky old floor, if you hear it. We all have our floors in our flats, and that's the only noise coming out. That's just great. I know there are groups that don't really like playing games, and I'm not that kind of person. I love games, and there is a great exercise I'm gonna lead to you. Feel free to steal it. Feel free to modify it, because there is so many things you can put into that. I call it reindeer races. I think it goes in some places with the name horse races. You can add whatever you want in the game, but I'll give you a couple of obstacles for the reindeer in plural, to go. So I'm gonna be the reindeer race host, and basically the movement, everybody's gonna have a gallop with the reindeer, and that's just gonna go easy breezy. And let's add immediately one thing, and that is a tree branch. So if I yell a tree branch, you're gonna have to have the word just slipped out of my mind, but you have to duck, that's the word, duck, so that you don't hit the tree branch with your reindeer. Another obstacle we are gonna have is a water hurdle, and you might guess what is coming, so you're just gonna have to jump. Whatever feels easiest way of jumping for you. And yes, duck. Thank you, Alex. Duck. Let's just have a quick go with those two. And the idea is just laugh. Just run, get sweat going, and have fun. If you hit the tree branch, it's fine. If you flip over to the water hurdle, that's fine. And the reindeer are gonna go. Tree branch. Water hurdle. You get the point. Wonderful. Let's add on TV reporter. So you're gonna have to smile and wave. You know the classic. People have their own kinds of styles of smiling and waving, but you're gonna have to make it look as fabulous as you can, so that the reporter gets the best kind of shots for the news. So let's add TV reporter, and let's add a Santa Claus, because it's reindeer. So Santa Claus is going to be your interpretation of Santa Claus, with either, you have all the presents for the kids, you have your own kind of walking, and then let's say probably a little bit of a ham belly, and then you're gonna have to say ho ho ho, and then we're gonna go. And TV reporter, just a reminder, you're gonna have to smile and wave. And it's just, everything is better if you can point out where the reporter is. So you follow the reporter, and as soon as you've passed the reporter, you go back to the racing. We're good to go? I'm sweating just after these two examples. Yes! Let's have the rest of the two. So we're good to go. TV reporter! smile and wave, and we're back in business. Tree branch. It's water hurdle. And feel free to make noises. Tree branch. Tree branch. Santa Claus. Oh, oh, oh. And we are good to go. Water hurdle. Water hurdle. Another TV reporter. Smile and wave. Good. Ready to go. Tree branch. Yeah, duck. Remember to duck. Water hurdle. Water hurdle. Another Santa Claus. Oh, oh, oh. And we're gonna get closer to the finish line. And we see 5 TV reporters, so you have to smile to each one of them. Using both of your hands, for example. Yeah, nice. Good thing. And then it's just sprint. But there is one more water hurdle. And you're finished. Feel free to get a water. A lot of you have joined me. It's a good thing to get your sweats going. I was, to be fair, quite nervous about running a workshop online after having a pause of almost 2 years of running any kind of workshops properly. And just doing physical exercise is a good way to relax. After we've got the sweats flowing, I can tell you a little bit about my own background as an artist. So I'm mostly currently into movement directing, movement, physical theatre, and different performing arts forms. So I really love dance and circus, and I wish to engage movement into every piece I work with. And since I come from Finland, we are under influence of Russian theatre culture quite strictly, and we really appreciate the Stanislavski practice and Chekhov's plays, also Michael Chekhov's teaching, but Anton Chekhov and Stanislavski are the 2 kings in Finland when it comes to theatre. And I've been interested, now that I'm about to graduate to be a master in theatre directing, I'm interested in this question of how can I marry movement? And when I talk about movement, I mean movements of body, physical action into text heaviness, into the Stanislavskian style of working with actor, which is very into how the actor themselves think in their brains. So I would call my own search for this practice creation of movement identity for a piece that is very much in their brain. And I want to explore the ways we can get the thinking mind and start moving. So that's in a nutshell. If you're interested in Stanislavski more, there is a wonderful online article by, I have my cheat notes down here. I'm gonna have a look. British Library has online article called Discovering Literature 20th Century, an introduction to Stanislavski. I would send you the link, but I'm just gonna save this live later, and you can you can come back and just take the name of the article from here. The article speaks a lot about the given circumstances, that is a strong basis for Stanislavski's character work. And he also talks a lot about characters' objectives and events of the play. And I want to focus today in this session into change, so things that change in characters, in any character, given the circumstances they are in. So that's change and given circumstance. And objective. And objective, there is several objectives. There is always objective in why the character is in a specific scene, or why they enter the stage in this specific part of the play, but there is always so-called super objective. I'm sorry if this is just very familiar for some of you, but for someone it's always fresh information, so I want to keep everyone on the same map. Super objective is the highest of meanings why you exist. I would say it in this way of very meta. It's a meaning why you work as you, what drives every one of your actions. But I'm just gonna focus on objectives in general as a roof topic. Another thing I want to specify to you is I absolutely love when a director gives me as an actor, or me as a director, I can give actors verbs, and I do really love Judith Weston's practice. If you're familiar with her, I suggest googling her. She works a lot with actors by giving them verbs that sum up their objective of what they want from their co-actor, their co-character in the play. And I'm just gonna throw a few examples just to get your mind thinking about the verbs, and specifically in terms of changes and what are your objectives in the scene. So she, for example, talks about demanding, convincing, persuading, soothing, or even flirting and teasing and tickling. And that was sort of one thing why I chose to work with a text, specifically a monologue, because I find it interesting that we all, as theatre practitioners, what we can do when it's just us, just me personally, just me by myself with a text, when there is no possibility to have the co-actor to collaborate with. And I got interested specifically after quite recently seeing a lot of self-tapes and following auditioning processes, and seeing that a lot of actors do have a tendency to stay in their heads. And even though the text itself would be brilliant, the fact that it's staying in your head doesn't bring it forward. Originally, when I was planning this workshop to happen in Zoom, I wanted to ask everyone attending to bring a monologue with them, or a short excerpt of a piece. I brought today, as an example, I'm going to work with Carlo Goldoni's the servant of two masters. If you have read it, brilliant. If you haven't, that's completely fine. I'm just going to go through it really quickly and give you some examples of exercises or practices, how I would approach a monologue. And if you know the play, it's good. If you don't, it's brilliant too. It's by Truffaldino, who is servant who ends up being servant for two masters. Simple as that is, it's a comedy from an Italian, Carlo Goldoni, and this is quite in the beginning of the play when Truffaldino realizes that he can actually make money and benefit from the fact that he's been hired by two different people who don't know about each other. So it's a good place to portray this change I want to emphasize in the character work or in monologue work. So I'm just gonna give it a read for you to start with. Isn't that just great? People all over the place hunting for a master, and I've found two. What the devil I'm going to do? I can't serve both of them. No? Well, why not? That wouldn't be a bad idea. Serving both of them. Earning twice the money, eating and drinking for two. Not bad at all. I'd say so long as neither of them found out. And just for the sake of character work, wonderful, my Instagram pause, so sorry. Just for the sake of character work, we need to think about the given circumstances first. And Truffaldino is a simple person, and he is the harlequin of Commedia dell'arte. So he's driven by simple desires such as sex, food, drink, and lazing around, so not needing to do a lot of work. So that is our basis, and that is also his objective. So all he wants is technically everything, but he finds a way to use the circumstances thrown at him, and he gets pleasure out of realizing this. So I find this very interesting monologue for him to show that this is the biggest achievement in his life, that he realizes that what he can benefit out of the situation. I'm not sure if you remember the text as it is now. If you don't, that is fine. But I would next try to find the verbs in the monologue. So just to demonstrate this, here I would be taking the text and pointing out verbs such as hunting and finding and serving. So wonderful, powerful verbs that you can also use as something to define the strength of your monologue. So actually, these are quite strong verbs in this monologue I've chosen. Or earning, eating, drinking. Quite simple then. Just to trace back and just to make this clear even for myself, because I have a lot of notes and I'm jumping back in and out. first thing, pick a monologue that intrigues you as an actor or a director, and preferably something that has a big change in it. Then find the verbs, because they define the strength and also a lot of the rhythm of the monologue. Next thing I would do is to come up with a physical action. And it can technically be anything. This is something I found out after exploring the possibility of taking Judith Weston's practice and trying to figure out how I can implement what she's doing in monologue work. So when there is no co-actor I can work with. So I need to have a physical action I can work with. And physical action is technically anything you can do with your hands. I'm gonna throw just a few ideas. Chopping wood, sewing, baking. Something like running is also a physical action, but there is not too much you can change in running except the rhythm. So pick up an action that preferably has something to do with the character, but you can have if you plays around with something that does have nothing to do with whatever the character is living in. And practice the action so that you can do that on a loop. And for a character like Truffaldino, and based on the play, I chose, just from the top of my head, counting money. This is white paper. Oh, sorry, Alex has asked me what scene is the speech in, and it's scene 2. It's scene 2. Truffaldino has just met with Florinda, who is the second master he's about to start serving. Getting back to Truffaldino's money. Counting money is an issue for Truffaldino because he's not too smart. So it's an interesting action to play with. Just gonna get a little bit on my feet and just very quickly demonstrate the struggle you might have. You're welcome, Alex. The struggle you might have with counting money just without having any text. If it's a fiver, it's a fiver, it's a tenner. But if anything messes up with your thoughts, like this live stream now, for me, I might need to get back to counting the money. And figure out an action your character could do even in the strangest places of the play. So we might not want to go deep in the soliloquy of any Shakespeare's play, but for a comedy piece like this, like Goldoni's piece, it works that you have something you do quite naturally. And Truffaldino is so keen on money, like just success, money, food, drink. He cannot keep his fingers out of the money if he reaches for one. So he's gotten one pile of notes from one of his masters and another pile of notes from one of the other one of his masters. So he just keeps on counting them. And then we go to the text. And I do remember it quite well, in my own opinion. But I'm still going to have a note on the lines. Truffaldino might come on stage and start with, isn't it counting money? So I have already struggled. It's fine. Isn't this just great? People all over the place hunting for one master, and I have found two. And then I got distracted because I lost the track on my money, so I need to start over again. But that is one good way to get your mind out of the text, is that you have something to do. And if you find an action, a physical action to implement to your work, I mean work as in text work, as early on as possible in your process of figuring out a monologue, for example, for an audition purposes, the better. And I know in quite a lot of auditions you're not allowed to have prop or anything, but it's good to bring up more in your rehearsal process. I found it meaningful for myself. I found it adding on into the general practice of what do I find out of the character if I just read the text. And this is one very simple practice I wish to offer to you, and you can really just let it explode, as I would say. So if you want to modify this practice, one quick tip would be to create an action that has nothing to do with the character whatsoever. So if I would take the chopping of the wood and Juliet from Romeo and Juliet, what would that give for the character? Because it gives another level of exploring what both the tiredness, the fact that the action itself tires you up as an actor, what does that give to your practice or your self-rehearsal process, as I would call it? And secondly, if that brings you to realizations of the text. Sometimes even like I notice as a director, I've noticed myself as an actor that once you let the things you do on stage to affect you without rushing with the text, you get to places that you don't figure out if you're just sitting and going through the monologue. I had just some few tips. You can spice up physical work with the character. The other thing is I'm trying to find the English word for this. If my money is about this size and my action stays on the level of my face and my body stays quite small in this position, what if I amplify it? I think amplify is the word I'm looking for. So what if I come on stage and I'm counting my money with it gives you already another tone. It's much more comedic and much more show off as a character. The other side would be condensing the movement or the action, as I would call it. So what does it bring to my character if I'm counting the money as small as I can? So what if I would, that already gives me a feeling that I don't want anyone amplify or exaggerate. Amplify is, I see it as a size, so if I just go big, reach out. Exaggerate is I would say exaggerate is an emotional level. So if you exaggerate it, it means that you're giving it more meaning, possibly as an actor, more meaning than the action itself actually requires. So I think that's a brilliant question, and I don't have a perfect answer for that, but my personal answer would be that I think amplifying is a physical term, and exaggerating is more of an emotional way to level it up. But getting back to the condensing the movement, it gives already much more shyer and smaller character, or someone who is very, very careful with their money. So it's like a golem. So what if Truffaldino is counting his money all the time, like, no, this is my precious. I've just watched Lord of the Rings over the course of summer, so it's from the top of my head. But it's a good way of trying out, and you're like, I think Truffaldino is actually Gollum, just looking for money, looking for his basic objectives, which are the food and drink again. One way to practice giving more to the character and their work, their brain work and their physical work, with playing on with the movement or the physical action, whatever that is. And just gonna go quickly down to my cheat notes if I've missed something. Yes, one brilliant way to practice a bit more with the physical action is to just have a go without the text at all. So what would Truffaldino do physically if he came on stage counting his money? Going through the text in his head, but needing to show it with, needing to show that with his physicality instead of his words. This is genuinely a very good practice I've learned when I've been a director, is to have a go with this kind of practice in the rehearsal room and ask the fellow actors if they got what the character intended to say with the scene or with the monologue. And that gives already hints of, again, I'm talking about the sort of strength of the scene or the rhythm of the scene, because whatever we do physically on stage can either mean that this I got a heart, wonderful, that the movement is emphasizing whatever the character is feeling or doing, or it can do exactly the opposite. And that's sort of the interesting places where you can play with, is when is the character doing what they are actually meaning to do, and what are the times when characters' actions are fighting against what they would like to do, either consciously or without being aware. And this is sort of good play, the servant of two masters, to find characters that are sly out of the evilness of their heart, and sly like Truffaldino, just because they are simple in their brain and they have very basic needs. And if I could throw in something more, I'd say surprise yourself, probably. That's always a good place to, when you're dealing with monologue, don't have full pauses, dots or commas in the places where they are in the text. Figure out what the text is giving to you, and specifically what the movement is giving to you, without, I would probably say, don't take this as truth. This is my personal opinion, but don't follow the rules of the text ever. That's one thing I appreciate. If you want to give the level of physicality to your character work, one thing is to explore out of the stage directions or parentheses, or exiting, entering the stage, as it said in the text. To be fair, Truffaldino doesn't come to this specific scene carrying this much of money, but it's something I think his character does. And that's already giving me much more to explore of the character and of this specific scene. I'd say that's more or less it, and I'm really happy to answer questions, or if you have additional thoughts about what else, do you have any tips or any comments on what would be easy way to start a specific monologue. I only worked with this one today, but if you have any issues with a certain Shakespeare or something, I'm happy to give it a go. If I would sum this up, this session of mine, somehow, I'd say always find what the character would do if they were moving. I'm reading a question, sorry. There is several ways I've rehearsed doing opposite than what my character would I'm taking this back again. So physically doing opposite than what the text says. It's a good thing, for example, in rehearsal space, to if you're training with I give an example of Romeo and Juliet. If you practice the distance Romeo and Juliet have, because they're representing two different families. So there is a Montague and Capulet, and all the characters Romeo and Juliet want to achieve is to be close to each other. And they still, that's what they do in the text, that's what their objectives are, but what if you put them on different sides of the stage, for example? This would be how I would approach this. I got a question about it. Approach this as a director. I got another question I'm gonna check. Wonderful. Using objectives with actors. I personally think, and again I say personally because there is no absolute truth, it's one thing that I want to start with when I'm working with an actor. I want to immediately come clear with the objectives in the play. So I usually go through a text with if I go through the whole play text with my actors, I want them to point out what do you want in each of the scenes. So it's a great way for a director to come clear with the thought patterns the characters have, but it's also a good way to challenge actor to think at an early stage of rehearsal to come clean with what are the things the character wants, because they don't change really ever throughout the play. If a character comes to, I'm getting back to the Romeo and Juliet. If Romeo decides after seeing Juliet that this is the woman I want to spend the rest of my the rest of my life with, that should be never swept away in any of the actions character takes, or any of the events a character lives throughout the play. I do have always tendency to try and give actor a go with their objectives. So there is no use in letting actor down with replacing my own thought with what I think the character is going through in the play. Actors have their own interpretations of the ultimate wishes of their character, and if I had the chance, I'd always give them time to show their objectives. Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to just throw in, or any observations of what was feeling like this I didn't get this really started, or if there's anything that felt like, oh my god, this was so good? Can you add a little bit on the top of that? I guess since I've already been running for 15 minutes, it's a bit more than what I was expecting. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have a time to have a Q&A with Alex, but I'm happy to answer any questions with the best way I can, really. Honestly, there is not enough time for me to list all the books I like about Stanislavski and theatre practice, or a physical theatre. There is the only way I would say practice your own sense of understanding text by reading more and more plays. No time, but if people want to get out, what's the best way? Oh, wonderful. I've been just pointed out that if you want to get in contact with me about this workshop, about something that came up in this workshop, or a thought you had from any of my talks, or something you completely disagree with, or you just want to have a chat, feel free to find me in Instagram, the Car Crush Productions. I have another questions. The Car Crash Productions have shared my profile in their feed, so just go and have a look there. And I still underline the meaning of Virtual Fringe, since the Edinburgh Fringe couldn't happen. The Car Crash Productions account has a link in their bio if you want to give a little bit of support financially for them. It would be wonderful. I've been asked to share where the love for physical theatre came from. Honestly, I studied acting for a couple of years after high school, so I was pretty young. And I had a teacher that had studied in the Comedia School in Denmark, Copenhagen. They have a similar value basis there at that school than what they have at Jacques Lecoq in Paris, and that teacher was super energetic, super young, super vibrant, super, you could say super anything. And I studied physical theater with her for 2 years in my acting studies. And the way she, especially when we did character work, with elements and with all kinds of, well, how would a person with a character of coffee move like, was sort of, now I can just physicalize it. It was sort of inspiring to see, start also seeing characters in my own real life after working specifically character work with my physical theater teacher. I think that was, when was it? 2012 maybe. Getting, all rusty in my brain. 2012, and I got interested in characters, and that was also one thing that made me realize I also like people, observing people. It's an interesting level of understanding humanity, understanding people, is why did they behave like they behave. And I would be happy to go on studying more and more character work, and I'm looking forward to having chance to do that in the future. It's already 4:00. I've been speaking so much. If any one of you has any other questions to just throw in now, feel free to do so. I'm just gonna take a sip of water, and if nothing pops out now, feel free to drop me a message. Share the account of a car crash productions, and give a follow for all the rest of the remaining Virtual Fringe content that's going to take place. Thank you so much for everyone who has been following, popping in, popping out. I hope really you got something out of this. And it's, again, thank you for the platform of letting me practice my online workshopping skills with a car crash productions. It's always a good place to learn, even though the content of the workshop might not have been the best possible. It's still wonderful that I got this moment to learn more and to show more, and hopefully you got some tips on how to take a monologue and how to put it in pieces and find ways to explore. Thank you so much. Thank you specifically for Alex, who has been dropping all these nice questions for me in here. Thank you. I wish to see all of you more.